Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen TV. Of course, as we promised, it's time for us to dive into press review and some of the matters affecting counties. And our guest is already here in studio. We're waiting for one more guest, but with us is Honorable Wcliffe Wangamati, Governor for Bungoma. Sir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And choosing to come here on this platform and speak to Kenyans.
Thank you.
All right. Of course, as usual, before we can even dive into that, we'd like to give you, our viewers, just a general overview of what to expect in the local dailies today. With me here with the Standard newspaper, the new bid to slash counties by half. So from 47 to about 25 counties. The story behind this is the Controller of Budget proposal to cut the number of devolved units in a presentation to the Constitutional Reforms Team, which reignites debate on the sustainability of the 47 counties. What does this mean for development? What does this mean for funding? And what does this mean for even representation? And it's not just counties that will be affected. We're discussing matters wards as well as
constituencies, possibly.
There you go. Thank you very much. And then, of course, page 4, inside KDF, the defense for Kismayo, 7 years after the operation A Sledgehammer that drove out Al-Shabaab. Kenya soldiers have restored normalcy in Somalia seaport, but danger is always lurking, as our team found. That's in regards to the Standard newspaper, page 4. In the back, matters sports, but let's see also
quickly pass through those. You don't want to
Okay. We'll let Willis Raburu deal with the sports later on in the show.
Okay, I see what you just did. On the front page of the Daily Nation, this is what you'll find. The enemy within, crisis of guns in wrong hands. A few important points from that. The government does not know how many weapons it has issued in the last 50 years. And armed men could turn into militia, becoming a big internal security threat. That's one story you can read about. Further details on page 4. But meanwhile, a picture there of UK Prime Minister Theresa May, the last straw. She announced her resignation on Friday, blaming it on Brexit. And a sulking Somalia, Kenya's neighbor, bars its officials from meetings in Nairobi, including a UN Habitat meeting that's supposed to kick off today. Somalia has said to its officials, do not attend that meeting. How will this play out eventually? We'll just have to wait and see. At the very top of the Daily Nation, another important story, the search is on for Ouko's successor as Auditor General's term comes to an end, and finding a replacement will be a tough balancing act. But let's immediately engage our guests. Remember, today is an all-governors panel. We have Wcliffe Wangamati, who's the governor of Bungoma, still waiting for the chair of the Council of Governors, Wcliffe Wangamati, who's also the governor of Kakamega County, and also Major retired Dr. Dado Godana, the governor of Tana River. They both should be joining us shortly. But Governor Wangamati, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Maura and Kibiku.
Thank you for finding time to be here with us. We immediately want to get a reaction from you of that story on the front page of the paper, a new bid to slash counties by half. And I can actually tell you a little bit about some points made by the Controller of Budget. This is what she has to say to the BBI team, the Building Bridges Initiative. And the story is actually on page 8, I beg your pardon.
Page 8.
We need fewer leaders, is what the team has been told. This is on page 8 of the Standard. Now, Agnes Odhiambo told the BBI team that 47 counties may not be sustainable because the devolved structure is gobbling up public funds. Her recommendations are, number 1, reduce the number of constituencies, wards and commissions, reduce counties to 22, that means abolish 25, slash high salaries for leaders. And she says that while the devolved government structure is commendable, questions have arisen over the number of counties and whether they are sustainable. And Kenyans generally seem to agree with her. Governor, what are your thoughts?
I think first and foremost, I must say it's an honor for me to be here on this program, the Power Breakfast program.
Thank you.
I've just seen what the Controller of Budget has put forward to BBI team, but I think it's important that we appreciate how we came to this position of 47 counties. I think the key objective of devolution was basically to move resources from national level to the counties. And Maura, as much as you can talk about sustainability and whether it makes sense or not to have 47 counties, but it's very important that in this country, once you have given somebody something, it's very, very difficult to take it away from that person. Where we sit, I mean, when you just give an example of where I come from in Western Kenya, where we have about 5 counties or 4 counties in the former Western province. You have Kakamega, you have Bungoma, then you have Vihiga, then you have Busia. Those counties were demarcated on the previous boundaries of the districts, the former districts. These have been in existence for over 20, 30 years. It becomes very difficult for you to go and redraw those boundaries and take it back. Because people in Bungoma, if today you are to say, so you merge, and the headquarters of the new county then becomes Kakamega, people from Bungoma will find it very difficult to start going to Kakamega for services, for whatever reason that you have to do. So it's very difficult that, as much as we talk about, I'm an actuary by profession, I understand about the issues of economics. But it's very difficult at this stage, after devolution, after setting up the 47 counties, then we go back and telling people that now we have to merge these counties. It's very difficult. It's a difficult discussion. And yes, if it's put and there's a question on referendum whether we want to merge the counties or not, I can tell you it's very difficult for that question to pass.
Well, according to public accounts experts, they say that the country can save 1 trillion Kenyan shillings every year if the number of elected leaders is cut by half. But then the other question is, even if we cut our leaders by half, will this affect the issue of representation? How do we then still balance that individuals and groups are represented without it then becoming over-representation, then becoming a spending issue?
And I agree with you. I think the biggest question, when you look at the Kenyan budget and what is happening in the Kenyan country, I think the biggest problem that we have is corruption.
Right.
It's not about how much we are spending on wage bill. But when you look at the level of corruption, the amount of money that we are losing relative to the wage bill, it doesn't make sense for us to focus on the wage bill, but we rather focus on the issues that are surrounding corruption. Because we're losing a lot of money.
Why do you think Kenyans are so focused on the wage bill? Why do you think they see more loss through the wage bill vis-a-vis corruption, while what you have said makes sense, in that if you add up what has been lost through corruption over the last 5 years vis-a-vis what has been used to pay counties, corruption wins in terms of numbers?
Absolutely, and I think the main reason, and that's a very good question, Maura, I think the main reason is that the general focus of people is on the wage bill. We rarely want to focus on corruption, because in corruption, it's very easy to see what is happening on the wage bill. It's very difficult to see what is happening on the corruption side, because the numbers are hidden. You know, and I think generally, even in the media, I think the focus on corruption is not as much as on the wage bill. I think we speak about what the members of parliament are earning, we speak about what the governors are earning, what the MCAs are earning, and all that. But we do not focus very, very much on the wastage, on the corruption that is happening. When you look at, you know, the average budget of this country, or of any county, 70% of the resources go to recurrent expenses, and then 30% goes to development. And I think out of that 70%, the wage bill is half of that, less than half of that, about 30% of the entire budget. Now, if today as a country we focus on corruption and we focus on recurrent expenses outside wage bill, that is for meetings, conferencing, and, you know, per diems and whatever, we should be able to save more than 1 trillion shillings that, you know, Kibiku is talking about. So I think my thinking, as a country, we need to move away from this idea that I think it's very difficult, where I sit, Maura, that you can go and tell people in Tana River, in Lamu, in Isiolo,
but you now have to go.
Now you have to go all the way to some other place. I think that discussion is very difficult. I think we can discuss it on papers here, but in reality, on the ground, it's very difficult to slash counties in this country. Well, I think the discussion should move towards how do we manage our expenses, how do we manage our wage bill, how do we manage corruption going forward, so that you can minimize these costs.
According to the Controller of Budget, 303.8 billion Kenyan shillings is normally left aside and allocated to counties. Now, out of that, 78%, which is approximately 236 billion Kenyan shillings, goes to expenditure alone. Another 22%, which stands at 96.9 billion Kenyan shillings, goes to development. So you can see that development gets less compared to expenditure. Governor Wangamati, as governor for Bungoma, what are you doing to strengthen Bungoma as a county to make sure that she can independently stand on her own in terms of revenue? What are your strongest resources or sources of revenue in Bungoma, and how are you strengthening them?
Kibiku, before I come to that discussion about Bungoma County, I think it's important to put those numbers in perspective. This year, the financial year 2019-2020, the entire country's budget is going to be about 2.7, 2.8 trillion Kenyan shillings.
That's correct.
Now, when you look at that and you put it in perspective, how the amount of money that is going to counties is less than 10% of that. of that national 2.7,
less than 10%,
is about 10%. But when you look at what is happening in the counties, the functions that are being done by county governments, I think we should be thinking about increasing the allocation from national government to counties. Because I think what is happening is that counties are getting less than 10% of the national budget. But when you look at the functions, now, if you went today, you went to Bungoma, anything that happens in Bungoma County, whether it's a national, there's a problem with the national road, or there's a problem with the highway, there's a problem with the security, I think the focus is on the governor. So I think that discussion needs to happen, and I think as the Council of Governors, we'll be making our presentation to BBI about that, and we believe that in the upcoming, if there's going to be a referendum, devolution should be the center of that discussion.
What percentage would you want to see allocated to the counties?
I mean, when you look at the practice across the world, it's more than 40 to 50%.
40 to 50%?
Yeah, when you see in Japan, it's about 60%. I think in South Africa, it's about 45%. So I think when you look at what is happening outside, across the world, is probably about 45 to 50%. But now coming back to your question, Kibiku, is that first and foremost, it is true, when counties came into place, first and foremost, we took over employees of former town councils and municipalities. And the biggest problem that you have is that some of those employees are very highly paid. Just to give you an example, that you find a driver in a former town council or municipality earning Kenya shillings 100,000 per month. But when we took them over, we had to retain them and continue paying them those high salaries. So that is one of the issues that brought about these issues of high wage bill and high recurrent expenses. But now coming back to
how you're strengthening Bungoma.
I think where I see it is that when I came in as the governor of Bungoma County, the first thing that we did is to look at how we, basically manage our financial resources, cutting down on wastage, cutting down on traveling costs, cutting down on issues about per diem, so that at the end of the day, we increase our development budget from whatever it was I think about 28% to about now 32%. That is one. Secondly, one of the issues that we're also doing, and we're working very hard on it, is to ensure that our local revenue that we collect as a county goes up. Because once the revenue goes up, then the development ratio will come down. So that is happening in Bungoma County, and we believe that in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to push the development ratio from about 32% to about 40%.
To about 40%. Yes. So Bungoma is now far gone from the days of rumors of wheelbarrows costing 100,000. Those days are far behind.
Those days are gone. And
those days are
you
gone.
Haven't seen any scandal in Bungoma County.
Called carcinogenic, those wheelbarrows. Okay, you need to clarify that. We want to let our viewers know that you can weigh in on this conversation. 22422 is our SMS line. The hashtag is Daybreak. The crucial numbers, at least one of them is 0719 777. What are your thoughts on the state of devolution in this country? And today we're asking you, what more can be done to strengthen devolution and ensure development in the counties, development that trickles down to the man or woman on the ground? What more can be done to strengthen devolution? I want to know that from you. Please weigh in on that conversation. And I think we have a tweet, Zinzi.
All right, let's take a look at feedback. Remember, @Citizen TV is our official Twitter handle. Hashtag is Daybreak. All right. Gran, you say, it's sad that the control of budget wants the county slashed by half. In northern Kenya, we were marginalized for decades till devolution came. Okay,
a tweet then in support of the governors. And joining us is another governor here, Major Retired Dr. Dado Godana, who is the governor of Tana River County. Governor, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for finding time to join us this morning.
Yes.
I immediately want to engage you on the headline on the front page of the Standard. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. A new bid to slash counties by half. In a nutshell, the Controller of Budget is proposing to cut the number of devolved units. She made this in a presentation to the BBI team from the 47 to about 22. She says that will save the country much needed funds, and some of the smaller counties are struggling because of their size. So if you join them up with 1 or 2 others, you might see a considerable difference. Your thoughts on this proposal, Governor? I'm sure it's something that's not new to your ears. You might have had...
I really don't need to read so much about what is written, but slashing county budgets would be a big disaster. Probably the issue of merging counties would be for one reason or the other, be something to consider.
Merging counties?
Probably, but slashing county budgets is seriously a big disaster.
And then the discussions about
slashing counties.
Slashing counties.
Reducing the numbers.
Reducing the numbers.
Yes, from 47 to 22.
Is something to debate about. But again, we have to be very, very careful about it, because, again, so that we don't bring in or marginalize counties that are further marginalized. And I'm trying to imagine probably merging Tana with probably some of the counties around there.
Yes.
Probably merging it with Kitui on this other side, or considering Kilifi.
How would that play out? What would that look like?
I'm just trying to imagine around my counties there, my neighbors.
Who would you merge with?
If you merge, for example, Tana with Kilifi, still the people of Tana would find it difficult to cope with the takeoff of Kilifi, because Kilifi is far, far ahead of us.
Okay.
If you say probably you are merging it with Lamu, both of us counties
facing similar challenges.
Similar challenges. Although that was part of the proposal that people were thinking about there when now the debate on referendum came by. People were thinking we either go with Lamu or we either go with Kilifi. So it's something to look at. But
what
then,
would that mean for representation?
For representation,
would now some of your
that is the issue, because
feel that?
yes, they would feel that, they would feel that. If then we are merged with Kilifi, for example, I'm just trying to look at it. People are worried that probably Kilifi would still take more of the jobs, for example. They'll have more representation in whether in the Jumuiya or in national government. They'll have they'll still be having a lot of the tech, because the problem here, Igara, is the disparities that some regions were left in. And if you were to look at probably the human resource potential or education levels, Wangamati here would have, I think in this county, so many other doctors and professors, and Nyanza the same to Kilifi. We cannot compare the... But
Tana River, you feel, would have challenges?
Yeah, Tana River would have challenges, obvious. We have challenges even today.
Even today?
Even today. So people would wish we are left the way we are. If we can be...
Those are your thoughts?
If it's about merging, probably better if we are going with Lamu a bit, because then we can speak the same language.
So, Governor, you don't seem to be for that idea. But the controller of budget says that 47 counties, that structure is too expensive, hence why they're saying that we reduce them by half. Do you think that reducing these counties will help counties then achieve their development goals?
I think, in my view, the challenges in budget is brought about by duplication of structures.
Which Wangamati alluded to.
Yeah.
But he was speaking, yeah, he mentioned that.
Because they are somehow we seem to be disagreeing with certain facts. That now that we have gone, the direction we have gone, devolution, then the focus should be on the institutions within the county. But when you have an overlap of one institution of national government overlapping on another in county government, then of course there's no way you can reduce costs. The cost will remain
very high.
Okay. So it is for us as Kenyans to decide in the review, and I'm happy there was a review before there was a task force that was put to review institutions of government, and then look at which is still relevant, which is not relevant. Unfortunately, all of them, I think, they have been carried. They still have been given life.
By national government.
By national government.
So duplication of duties.
Duplication of duties.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Governor.